Hey everybody, Dr. Adam Boender, and I am back. I'm the peptide researcher, and I am so excited today to have a special guest with us. This is Amanda Soukoulis, and we have actually been working in the world of peptides together for, it's been over a year now, right?
Yeah, just about a year.
Just about a year. And it's fun just because we get to go back and forth, the stories, the education, and really that is what the Peptide Pulse is about. It's about telling the stories of people who have not just experienced it, but they're also helping other people experience the benefits of these powerful little amino acid chains and sequences that are truly, I believe, really the next generation in what I call biooptimization. We've had this talk as well, but I want to give a little introduction to you. I am going to read it because I tried to memorize it and it was too impressive for me to get it through my head. I'm like, man, this isn't gonna hold. But Amanda, she is a high performance health coach. And when I say high performance, I mean like above the above. Yes, I'm a doctor and I speak with many, many doctors. I train physicians, but Amanda she's one of those, she's a constant learner. She's a constant, in a sense, even an educator, which I think sometimes the best way that we learn is through education. And she is the creator of what's called the U3 system. And if it's actually like U cubed, you can correct me on that. But
yeah, that's right.
But okay. So that system is to uncover, uproot, and unleash. And it's obviously the powerful voice in the world of regenerative health. But more than that, she has actually lived the transformation. And I think that's the best thing, is because in anything that we do, unless we've actually experienced what we're actually preaching, what we're actually teaching, what we're bringing, I don't really think that we can actually transform the lives of other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say I had to go through the worst of it so that no matter what was thrown at me from someone else who I'm blessed enough to work with, I could say, oh yeah, I experienced something similar to that. Let me show you kind of how exactly I navigated that.
Yeah, being a physician, and I should say even being a physician, and I don't practice anymore, but again, I train a lot of physicians, health coaches, the entrepreneurs in this realm of what many call biohacking. Again, we've talked about this many times. I hate the word biohacking. If you've listened to any of my episodes, that's probably the 100th time you've actually heard me say that, but that's okay. But it's true biooptimization. I would love for you to just share, give the audience a little bit about like your history, your story. It's so impactful, and I think that's really, again, that's why we're here. And I think most of the guests that I bring on here, that's why I love to bring them on and bring you on, because you have a very unique story and a very big story to tell. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And that's actually one of the very first reasons why we connected so much was over that word optimization, because that's right when we met was when my body was finally getting out of this healing journey and I was ready to optimize again. And I'd always lived in a state of optimization. And as soon as you said, Amanda, I don't love the term biohacking. We're not chopping away at our body like an axe. That just stuck with me. And I'd always use the word optimization, biooptimization, and that really just cemented it in. So I love that. So a little bit just about my healing journey, my health journey. I always cared about health and fitness. I grew up playing every single sport. I danced in college for one of the top collegiate programs in the country. When I finished that up, still really cared about health and wellness, nutrition, all of that. I had moved to Dallas, Texas in 2021, really just changed my environment, and that allowed me then to set a really solid foundation for my health. And I was at the peak of my health, so I thought. I was training with one of the greatest trainers in DFW, and he was a former professional athlete and really just in an environment where I could thrive. And I had been a finalist for the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, on Netflix, all the things. And all of a sudden, 2 months later, my health just crumbled literally overnight. And the first sign that something was off was my heart rate variability dropped. So my HRV went from a 90 down to a 60. If you're not familiar with that, heart rate variability, it's telling you how balanced and ready your nervous system is to really take on the day. And higher the better. There's no perfect score, but it's more relative to yourself. And so my HRV dropped. I went to a doctor. I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. That was the very first time I was dismissed. They said, oh, you're probably just stressed. There's nothing going on. I'm like, no, there's something wrong. A month later, my energy plummeted, literally plummeted. I could hardly show up to my workouts the same way that I did. I didn't have that same energy and zeal and passion for life like I always do. A month after that, my brain fog set in, and that was the worst of them all. I went from totally productive, totally fully functioning. I worked in private equity at the time, working on really complex projects, to hardly being able to get myself out of bed. I was literally dragging myself out of bed. It was awful. And I just remember thinking, like, this is not the answer. I was dismissed over and over and over again by different doctors and even people in the functional and naturopathic space. And so the last straw for me actually was I think it was around November, December. And I just remember going into my OBGYN's office, and I'd gotten some test results back that said that my estrogen levels were postmenopausal. Keep in mind, I am definitely nowhere near that range at all. And I told her that, and she looked at me and she said, well, are you trying to get pregnant right now? And I looked at her and said, no, in the back of my head, knowing that your hormones are for so much more than just fertility. And that was the very last time that I would step foot into that doctor's office ever again. And I left that office and really just felt this radical responsibility that if I was going to heal, it was going to be up to me.
So that last doctor, I mean, and in her questioning, and some people may be wondering, like, well, that seems like a normal question, but that question, though, was more of a push-off than trying to actually figure out what was going on.
Exactly. There was no empathy involved. There was not another question. There was no curiosity. Yeah. There was no trying to uncover, okay, why do we think your estrogen levels are low? And, I could tell you now my estrogen levels were so low because my body fat percentage was really low. Mm-hmm. And I was experiencing, my cortisol was all over the place, right? So there's like so many different things that we end up figuring out. But I had to go figure that out myself, right? The doctor just was very dismissive. And so that's when I found the world of functional medicine.
So that was like your turning point. Like that, how many doctors did you actually go to?
Probably 5 or 6 over the course of a few months. And I think I was in so much pain. I mean, also like 35 pounds piled on top of my body. And I went from, as a dancer, we're constantly in front of a mirror. We're looking at ourselves all the time. Like that part of it matters. And I remember I think my rock bottom was actually on Christmas Day. I was at my parents' house.
What year was this?
This was in 2023. Yeah. So like 2 years ago now. I was at my parents' house, and I remember rolling out of bed on Christmas morning. I'm in my childhood bedroom. The walls are bright pink. It's literally a princess room for like a young adult. Like my parents never changed my room since 2nd grade. And I like stumbled into the bathroom because it was dark and I was tired and not really feeling well. I turn on the lights, look at myself in the mirror. I didn't even recognize myself. My whole body was covered in hives. I had a fever. I had chills. I had body aches. It was Christmas Day. I decided like, hey, it would not be smart of me to even get out of the house because I was so sick. I laid on the couch all day long. I felt absolutely awful. And that was right after we had found out that I had a bacterial pathogen that was just wreaking havoc in my gut. And it caused a whole cascading effect for everything else. But it wasn't until I found functional medicine and I did those functional lab testing that we were able to actually uncover that.
Looking for an easier way to manage messages, reviews, and social posts? With Unified 360's AI-powered tools, you can double your reviews, engage with customers faster, and streamline social media management, all within one powerful solution.
So that was like the starting point of your journey to where you're at now.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
So what happened next?
Yeah. So at the time, I had partnered with someone that was in the functional space. She was a functional PA, and so she helped me get all that testing done. And I started just doing a deep dive on everything connected to the gut microbiome. And I'm like, wow, this is so fascinating. And, you know, I think that alignment is just such a big piece of every single step along this journey for me. Like, I've heard the saying, God puts a lamp to our feet, not a flashlight, right? He's not going to show you 10 steps ahead. He's going to show you the next step. And that's just what I continued to do step by step. And really, the journey started months before, when someone had shared with me, hey, the Lord just spoke to me in a vision for you, saying, clear path, clear path, clear path. This was 3 months before my health really plummeted, which is just wild, right? And that happened. An hour later, I walk out to see that there was a scholarship for this health summit that was in Dallas. So I apply to that. I'm like, I don't really know why I'm showing up to this place right now, but I am. And that ended up becoming really the start of my journey to being able to launch my business. The person that was running it, she's very well-known, well-established in the functional nutrition space. And she really took me under her wing and helped me build out the blueprint and take my own story, what's helped me, and create my own practice.
You know, I love quotes. Obviously, they help to me, drive me and guide me. And one is from Steve Jobs is, you know, we can't connect the dots looking forward. We can only connect them looking back. And that's exactly what I'm thinking as you're like 3 months earlier, you know, somebody gave you this, like, it's a light, you know, the lamp into your feet. It's like, again, in any journey, in any health journey, and people that have been through it, you know, I've shared my story multiple times on, you know, my wife with chronic Lyme and mold. And quite honestly, if that had never happened to our family and to us, we would not be sitting here. And it's so often that people say, well, I mean, would you want to take it all back? You know, that's a big question I get all the time. Like, man, that's such a hard journey. We haven't even gotten to the amazing stuff of what's brought you to where you're at now, but like, we sit back and like, would you want to not go through that again? And after, like, when you're in it, all you can think of is, I wish I wasn't here. I wish I wasn't going through the pain. I wish I wasn't going.
Yeah.
And but when you get through it, and that's the thing, I think that's the biggest thing for people to understand is, you will get through it. You just don't give up, because it's not why it's happening, it's what is happening. What can I learn from the journey?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's brought so many people into this space of what I mean, it's true health and true wellness. And we have to be our own advocates, which is exactly what you had to be, because our own healthcare system, quite honestly, it fails us.
Yeah.
It's not there to help us get better.
I mean, 80% of chronic conditions can be reversed or prevented from proper lifestyle interventions.
Yeah. I'm going to go even further, and I say, if you read or go deeper into things like Bruce Lipton in his research and his books, I think it's 92 to 95% of all disease is self-imposed. It's not genetic. So it's because of the things that we do to ourselves, environmental toxins, the freaking food we put into our own mouths.
Yeah. Stress, whether real or perceived. Like, I could go on and on and on. And like, honestly, a part of my healing journey too, which I think is important to note, is yes, there was the physical healing that needed to happen, but so much of it too, I say I was in this cocoon for 18 months healing. It was the worst thing of my life, because I thought I was a finalist, right, for the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. That was my dream. I said, I want to go back the next year.
Yeah.
Well, I said, okay, 4 months, I'll be healed. That's how long I signed up to work with this functional PA. We hit 4 months. My body is still not healed. Not even close. I
think it's funny. We put time limits and time stamps on what
healing.
We think we should have. It's like, wait a second.
Yeah. Well, and so to just continue on my story was, we get to those 4 months, my brain fog is kind of starting to get better. And the one thing that helped it the most was actually NAD. And a few months later, all of a sudden, I'm going through all the certification process. So I was able to actually order labs for myself. And so it's something that I do now. I mean, I'm always going to be the first guinea pig on things. So I ordered comprehensive labs for myself, like I do every 3 to 6 months. And I just so happened to get a test for mycotoxins, which that's the toxic part of of mold that can metabolize in our body. And sure enough, I had about 7 strains of mold, most of which were actually black mold from an indoor environment. And so the apartment that I had been in had black mold, and I got those results back in August. I was still really sick. My energy levels were low, all of which were symptoms from the black molds. And we had done so much work to go through the gut healing process. My gut still wasn't fully healthy. There's a differentiation between that. There's gut healing, but once you go through gut healing, you actually need to refortify the gut so that the toxins stay out of your body forever. Yeah. And so that's kind of the phase that I was in. I still had not lost all the weight again. Like my body still looked sick. Still had cortisol phase. Like it was 18 months of really being in a cocoon. It was a long winter. And that is when we connected. Yeah. And I'm sitting there next to you. You're talking about stem cells and MSCs and
I was
peptides.
I was at a training for a franchise group, and I was doing education on my passion, regenerative therapies.
Yeah, and we start chatting about, I mentioned something, or you mentioned something about molds, and you're like, we need to connect. And so I thank God so much, because when we connected was finally the time that my body needed, like the first phase of what we did, which we'll get into, was the final piece of healing that my body needed. And after we got through that, I finally got to get back to optimization, which is where I live and it's where I thrive. And so I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. And to answer your question about would I go back and like not have all of that happen to me? And the answer is absolutely not. I don't want to go back through that again, but I couldn't imagine doing what I was doing before I stepped into this. And I knew as soon as I started looking back and connecting all those dots, as you say, that God was orchestrating every single step of mine. And I flipped the script from why me to it had to be me.
Ready to shine and climb the ranks on Google? WellWorks is more than just your digital marketing solution. We're your dedicated partner in helping wellness clinics succeed. Convert clicks into new patients and see your leads, appointments, and clinics thrive. Expand your practice, reach more people, and help your community feel their best. Well, because it just works.
And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful because, especially just in light of everything that's been happening in this country recently, like we live in a very sick country, and it's important to get the truth out there and that healing is possible. And, you know, if you need hope, maybe you don't have the hope or you don't have the confidence or belief that you might be able to heal, just borrow some from me.
I love it. I think there's so many great points that you made through this and things that stick out to me. And one of them is the fact that you're talking about there's layers to healing, not just physically, but mentally. And, you know, when I was in practice, you know, I would sit in front of a patient and I would talk to them and I said, you know, as hard as it is to fully understand during the healing process, all right, and which is crazy, we live in a country that even just saying the word healing can get you taken off of networks. Saying that something helps you to heal can literally pull video content. I'm like, wait a second. Yet that's what we're all trying to strive for. But I would always tell patients, it's like, you know, you have to first want to heal. That's the hardest one for people to understand. It's like, well, why wouldn't I want to heal? Because sometimes people are defined by the disease process that they're going to. Why do you think we live in a country, in a society, in a world where we name diseases? Mm-hmm. Because we define ourselves by those things. Yeah. You know, I have diabetes or I have cancer. A powerful thing is speaking I am over yourself. Yeah. And that's really what you're doing. Whereas I truly believe without a doubt that every disease process is a dis-ease process of dysfunction, miscommunication on a cellular level. And that's really all it is.
Absolutely. And if we can get the cells to properly communicate and work be efficient again, then the body will be able to do what it needs to do.
Yeah, and that's and when we start we're going to get into peptides. Trust me, everybody, we're going to get into peptides here. But here's the thing: like I have always said, peptides are not in the utilization. And I'm actually going to go a step further. It's not just peptides. it's other modalities that we implement, whether it's, regenerative medicine, vitamin IV infusions, supplements, good supplements that aren't not just off the Walmart shelf, actual like viable, good, healthy, real supplements.
And not off Amazon either. There's so much research showing that too.
But ultimately it's not about a lack or a lack of, I always say it's
not a deficiency.
It's not a deficiency. Man, you're saying my own quote better than I am right now. Jeez, I'm like, my brain went, phew. That's okay. But thank you for quoting me.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Right here. It is. It's the efficiency. And these systems, as much as we look at this world and we look at a Ferrari or Lamborghini and we're like, oh, look how efficient that car, look at what it can do when it works together and it has that power.
Think about the kind of fuel you're putting in that car.
Right? Okay. Our bodies can be just as efficient and flow and function and thrive, not just survive. And I think we miss that because we are bombarded by a system. We're going way off here, but I love it.
No,
we're
not.
Bombarded by a system that thrives on sickness. That's our healthcare system. And that's what has to change. And it'll only change by sharing this type of information with people, sharing your story. And I'm excited to hear not just your story, but the stories that we're going to be telling of people that you've been helping. And I just got goosebumps. You can actually see those goosebumps. They're happening right now. I know. It's my passion for this is, I think, beyond a measurable amount. And I don't know how else to say that because it's when you live through these moments, and most people that move into a realm of, functional medicine. And in fact, what I'd love for you to do is actually explain, like, what does that even mean? Yeah. What does functional medicine mean to you and for those that are listening?
Yeah, great question. So functional medicine, we're really just looking at the interconnectedness of the human body. How does the gut talk to the brain, talk to your detoxification systems, your hormones, and something that's very interesting is about our medical system. The more specialized you are, the more money that you make. Mm-hmm. So you go to one doctor, they're only going to look at that one particular part of the body.
Like a cardiologist or an orthopedist.
Exactly. Yes. Whereas in functional medicine, we are looking at the body as a whole. And that doesn't just mean your physical body. We're looking like the mental, the emotional side. Like I will say, until I started speaking life into my own brain during my healing process, did my body start to heal. Like that's just the power of our brain. And, 90% of our serotonin is produced in our gut. 70% of our immune system is in our gut. So it just goes to show how comprehensive our body is. And so really functional medicine, we're just looking at it through a holistic lens and actually connecting the dots.
I think, and correct me, I think it's on Netflix. It's actually a series called Heal, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
But it talks about, because you mentioned the mindset of these things. I've always said, our conscious mind is a reflection of our subconscious thoughts. So I think that our body actually on a cellular level works exactly the same way. It's what we are constantly giving our bodies to work on a cellular level is the reflection, our physical reflection, our energy, our clarity, our again, even our vision, to even move is what the subconscious body is doing based on what we are consciously doing to it on a regular basis.
And we have to be very intentional about that because I think it's somewhere between 90 to 95% of our thoughts are the same repeated thoughts every single day. So you have to consciously think. And for myself, I know I've done so much work on, okay, what kind of life do I want to live? Where do I see myself 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? And I actually have a note on my phone that I read to myself every single morning about who I am mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, and the kind of partner that I want in my life.
Is that on the front of your phone that you read every morning?
Because
actually, I was looking at your phone, and I'm going off topic here real quick, but I wanted you to read what is the first thing on your phone?
So this says I am, and then at the bottom it says rooted in radiance.
I love it. I'm going to read mine.
Let's hear it.
I will trust God. I will not overthink. I will not worry. I will not stress out. I will believe the best. I will trust God's timing. I will hear God's voice. He gives me wisdom. I will rest in him. And to me, it's mind, body, spirit. It's all of it combined.
It's so true. So that's one of them that I have. I have another one that says, don't waste the pretty. Be you, just swim, right? Because a fish is meant to swim. They're not meant to climb a tree. So be exactly who you're meant to be. And I was talking about this on with someone on Wednesday, that I think optimal living and optimized health comes when you're living in full alignment with who you are and who you're supposed to be and who you're called to be. And I don't think it's possible to be in a state of disease, to be sick, if you're fully walking and living in your purpose.
I agree. I truly 100% agree with that. I think we live too rooted in what I truly believe is a draconian system of pushing and fear-mongering when it comes to our health. The moment we start going in for our yearly checkups and all these other things, and again, this goes to the mind, we are told, and we go through this, I'm like, so does your mom have cancer? Does your dad have cancer? Does your mom have heart disease? Does your dad have heart disease? Does your brother? Does your sister? We go off of these systems thinking, and we're taught that everything is genetic. It's just genes. But
whatever, far from the truth.
It's so far from the truth. I mean, and there's so much research out there. Again, I'm going back to Bruce Lipton because he is just one of the kind of, in a sense, the godfather, this foundational aspect of understanding epigenetics. Mm-hmm. Like literally the turning on and turning off of genes to transform your health. Just because your mom had cancer doesn't mean that you're going to have cancer. If you do the same things as your mom, then are your chances greater? Yes.
Yeah.
And now, and here's the truth. Science and research knows this.
Yeah.
Why do you think pharmaceutical companies, which by the way, did you know what pharmakia means? Witchcraft. Sorry, I'm just throwing that one out there, but
in
it
Greek?
Is. You're a citizen of Greece and America, so sure, you tell me what it means in Greek.
No, that's probably where the root is.
The root is, but
either that or Latin.
Latin, which is the root. Actually, Latin is the root of most medications. Are the names are rooted in Latin. But you know, it's interesting to me because we take things today to push our body into something. That's what medications do. And in a sense, once you take, I think the research says more than 3 medications at one time, the number of chemical reactions within your body is infinite. They do not know what will actually happen. But yet they'll research one medication and say it's for A, medication B is for B, C is for C. And the majority of the American population, on average, I believe, is on 8 to 10 medications at one time. And we wonder why we're a sick and dying country. We do rank the world in one thing when it comes to our healthcare system, and that's called emergency medicine, and that is it.
Yeah. Well, when I found out that the average American lives to be 76 years old, that's their lifespan, but their health span is 64 years old, and it's give or take 2 years, but 64 years old. That means 12 years, the average American is actually dying. They're living with at least one chronic health disease. And that's because of choices that have compounded over the past 20 years.
Yeah.
And so imagine if we lived in a country where people went for proper nutrition, hydration, movement, sunshine, like you get here in the beautiful state of Florida, connection, knowing how to regulate your nervous system, grounding your feet in the ground.
You mean like natural things that can actually help you, like heal and be restored?
Yeah, heal and restore, and then peptides that just take you to the next level. Love it.
It's phenomenal. Sometimes sometimes the best healing is doing less. Right?
Yeah.
But we can get into that one.
Yeah. I mean, I remember someone asked me right when I was coming out of the thick of my healing. I think I put a smile on my face more than I was actually feeling really healthy at the time. And she had asked, Amanda, well, what's been the hardest part about this journey for you? And I said, actually resting. Actually resting. Because I have been in go, go, go mode my entire life. And so it was learning my nervous system and learning what my body actually needed and listening and knowing that you can only perform to the level that you are recovered.
That's a good one. Repeat that.
You can only perform to the level that you are recovered.
I think everybody needs to take a note on that one, because that one hits me. Because I am if anybody knows me, I don't stop. I go. But that's so powerful. It's man, we can go so deep into that one. Maybe we'll have to run a whole other episode on.
Well, that's where where we start with Epitalon.
Yeah, right. I mean, so we're going to get back onto the journey. So we met. I was working with a franchise group. I was in there doing education on the coaching side, where I do on, stem cells, exosomes, and implementing that into this franchise. And I remember what it was I heard you say mold. You were talking actually to somebody else, and I remember walking up to you and I was like, "Did you mention something mold?" And how that hit me is because my wife, at the time was dealing with mold. And again, my own journey, my family's journey, if I hadn't been going through that, I wouldn't have been able to come up you with the confidence that I had, like, hey, we need to talk.
Yeah.
Because you are going through something that you should not have to be going through with your health.
Yeah.
So I do remember that. That's how we met. And we, you were with somebody at the time, but I remember we swapped numbers, and I said, give me a call. Let's talk. I'd love to walk you through some, because I was like, I know that peptides can help you.
Yeah.
I don't know to what extent, but I know that they can help.
Yeah.
And I think it was 2 weeks? 3. It was a few weeks, I think, and then you ended up reaching out, and then we started talking. So
yeah,
I'm gonna let you keep going on your journey here.
Yeah. So we sat down on a Zoom and you shared all about them. And the main focus at first was, how can we get rid of this black mold that's in your body? And so the first step that was recommended was Epitalon and VIP. And so Epitalon, from my understanding, is it,
which you understand well. So
well, I'm just sitting next to the peptide researcher.
But I'm sitting next to the peptide princess.
You're right. You're right. So Epitalon, it essentially resets your circadian rhythm through the pineal gland, and it also helps to regulate your hormones. It helps to harmonize your hormones, as I like to say it. And this was the very first step. It's actually better known to extend your telomeres, right? And to reset your DNA. So it's more known to be a longevity peptide. However, what's connected to longevity? The quality of your sleep. The average American, their restorative sleep, which restorative sleep means your REM sleep and your deep sleep. So that's how well your brain recovers, how well your body recovers, is between 35 to 45% of your sleep. Well, I wear a Whoop. Shout out to Whoop. It's my favorite. I've been wearing it.
There it is.
For almost.
I had to do that.
Oh, Whoop. There it is. I've been wearing my Whoop for almost 1,000 days straight. I don't take it off, and I actually keep it on to remember my journey, because it's a big piece of my journey and helping identify that something was going on. That's what was connected to my HRV. It also tracks sleep very well. And my restorative sleep was around 48%. So already I was on the higher end, higher than the average American. Well, I started with Epitalon as per Dr. Adams' recommendation. And 3 days in to a 10-day reset, you just take Epitalon for 10 days straight. 3 days in, I call Dr. Adam and I'm like, Doc, you will never believe this. My restorative sleep is at 60%. Are you kidding me?
Okay, so I remember this phone call. I was actually at my daughter's, one of her cheer competitions.
Yes.
And I was we're out by the pool with some friends, and I saw your call come in, and I knew you had just started taking Epitalon. And again, like you said, so Epitalon, it has some phenomenal benefits. It really is looked at in the longevity space. And specifically like DNA repair, telomerase activation, and how that really works, and the multiple mechanisms of its function is it actually slows down. There's a thing, it's a law or what's called the Hayflick limit. It's your body has a very set number of cell replications. Every cell is different. Some replicate faster, some replicate slower, but the Hayflick limit is really based on the fact that there are a very specific set of those replications. When those replications stop, guess what happens? We die. But the cellular turnover stops. That's how we continue to live, is We have new blood cells, red blood cells every 90 days, new skin every 14 to 21 days, new intestinal cells like every 90 days. Mm-hmm. And so this constant replication, well, what research has shown through Dr. Cavinson is, and it's the Cavinson protocol is what we go by, is 10 milligrams for 10 days. But that cell, so you have a parent cell, which is your first cell, and what it does, it actually divides. Because when a cell dies off, it needs to replace it with something else. And so from cell A to cell B, that parent cell to that daughter cell, what happens is Epitalon, and in a simple way, just to explain it, it slows down how quickly this cell replicates to create that daughter cell. Now, I always reference the movie Multiplicity with Michael Keaton. I mean, I'm 44 years old. I know y'all thought I was like 26. It's okay, guys. Don't worry about that. But that movie, Michael Keaton, he's trying to clone himself. And he actually does. He clones himself. And his first clone is like almost near perfect, almost exactly like him. A little bit different, but almost. And then he's like, man, I've got even more work than I need to do. So he then clones that clone. And he gets up to like, I think it's like 9. And each time he does it, like the clone gets dumber and dumber and dumber. And this is how I talk about cellular replication, is if you were to replicate something really fast, or let's just say that you're at work, you got to write a paper, okay? You got to get a report out, but you do it extremely fast. How well do you think that report's going to work, and how well is that message going to get across? Not well. Mm-hmm. But if you sit down, you take the time, you go through it, you proofread it, you make sure it's right, you hand it in, you're like, okay, this is what I need to do. Cells are the same way. So if it replicates fast, you get less of that transformative information to that daughter cell. Epitalon slows down that process so you have a better replication of that second cell. And that's where that longevity, because now you have a healthier cell, a more prominent cell. And that's just one part of it. So it slows down that telomerase breakdown. It doesn't stop it. If you reverse it, that's called anti-aging, which I also don't like that term. I like longevity. Yeah. Anti-aging, I always say, is like, that's an external facial thing. I do anti-aging procedures on my face, okay? Longevity is that cellular communication and that longevity and that optimization.
So good.
But how Epitalon then affects that pineal gland is, yes, it hits like 3 different receptors specifically to help with sleep.
Yeah.
And so I remember, getting back to my story, I go off on tangents and I get excited, but I was sitting there and you go, Doc, you're not going to believe it. And in my mind, when somebody tells me this in the many years that I've been helping people and through everything I do, my first thought is,
oh no, what happened?
Well, first it's, oh no, what happened? But I could tell by your voice, it was an exciting voice. Hey, Doc, you're not going to imagine what happened. And my first thought is, I bet you I know what happened. Because it's when people are doing things to better the efficiency of their system and to better their health, instead of thinking as medicine, and I'm not really going to medicine here, but optimization and how we work this, we associate symptoms as negative or side effects as negative. What if we started to actually think of a side effect as a positive benefit that comes from what you're actually taking? I'm like, we need to switch our thinking.
I say all the time that symptoms are signals and that they're the greatest gift to us, because if we're sick, like, you wouldn't ignore a check engine light on your car. So why do you ignore the signals that your body is telling you something's wrong? Like, I think back to Christmas Day when my whole body was covered in hives. Yeah, there was something really wrong. And that was my body saying, hey, we need to heal. Yeah. And so getting back to Epitalon, so I call him, I'm super stoked. I'm like, wow, 60%. And so my brain is just thinking, if this one peptide was this effective, what can all the other peptides do? And why I love Epitalon as a starting point is because sleep is foundational to everything. And I will admit, I don't get my 8 hours of sleep every single night. But I will tell you that my restorative sleep and the amount of REM sleep and deep sleep that I get every night is probably still higher than 95% of the population in the United States.
You said 98%, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, I'm just lowballing it. But so that was the first thing, 3 days in. And, I know if I hit right around my 4 hours of restorative sleep every night, then it's going to be a great day. It's going to be an excellent day. And so then a few months later, this was probably in February when I was out at the HEAL conference, and we were sitting down chatting, and I shared a little bit more because Dr. Adam had explained to me, hey, like it also helps regulate your hormones. Well, when I was 16 years old, from 16 until just about a year ago, my cycle was never normal. My hormones were always off. It would come every 6 months, every 3 months. There was never anything that was normal. No one ever said anything to it other than just take birth control, which is awful. It's not the solution whatsoever. And so for the very first time in my life, my cycle has been regular and it's been normal, and it's brought my hormones into so much harmony. And I just think like, wow, imagine if I had Epitalon a decade ago, 2 decades ago, when my hormones would be so much better, so much sooner.
Well, I mean, what if just more people knew about it?
Right? That's why that's why I shout Epitalon from the rooftops.
You do. And in fact, I think you anytime you call, we'll go through, you're like, hey, doc, like I've got this person and they've got X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, what do you think? Yeah. The first thing is like, Epitalon, absolutely. It's like, but the reason for that is that I've called BPC like the tissue whisperer. I call ARA 290, it's like the neuroinflammation whisperer. Epitalon, to me, it's the functional reset. It really is, and it has a tremendous amount of research behind it. It is. I call it the reset peptide. If somebody has, hormonal imbalances, chronic disease of any sort,
or is just not sleeping well, are you kidding me? Like how many women and men, but I feel like it's more common in women that are up between 2 to 4 a.m.
Well, I think it's more men that are up between 1 and 3.
Okay. No, maybe, right? I don't know. I think I probably have more intimate conversations with women. And so, but that's like a common thing that I hear is that people aren't sleeping through the night. I can't imagine not sleeping through the night. Are you kidding me? My productivity would be tanked for the day.
So tell me this, waking up at 2 a.m. in the morning, because there's some, I don't want to say that, there's some research behind it, but what is that? Do you know? Cortisol, right? So if you're listening to this right now and you're waking up at 2 a.m., your cortisol's off. That's just a sign right there. You know who wakes up at 2 a.m. almost every night? This guy. I know, my cortisol's all over the place, but I got to get this fixed. I need to do my round of Epitalon. But not only should we be calling you like the peptide princess, you need to be like the Epitalon energy bunny, because that is really, every person, everybody that you work with, you put on Epitalon. You really do. And we're going to keep going into some of your story, but I love your story because, Epitalon is the reset. It's the reset. Because if we talk about DNA, if we talk about telomerase activity, if we talk about sleep, those rest is essential. I don't believe, again, we can go into our own medical system and you can look at labs. Okay, so you run labs, very specific labs that I think are essential. We're going to get some links so that people can know how to reach you and how to get that information from you and what labs they need to take. It's test, don't guess, I think is an essential thing. But I think that there's something to the fact that you don't have to get 8 hours of sleep. In most labs, we have the American standard, like everybody knows the American standard diet is for crap. It is. It does. It's nothing. In fact, the sad diet. The table is flipped upside down. We need those healthy fats, and then all the carbs, they need to be thrown away because our carbs are different than anywhere else. But I'm getting off topic again. But sleep, as long as you're getting the deep sleep, like I maybe get 4 hours a night. I know I should probably get more, but to me, it's about the quality, not the quantity when it comes to sleep, rest, and almost to me, anything. Exercise. It's not about exercising for 2 hours, or 1 hour. If you get great quality exercise, mixing it between actually lifting heavier weights and then getting in your cardio, it doesn't have to be an hour constantly. Just doing some sun squats. Is it sun squats? Is that what you call them?
Sunshine squats.
Sunshine squats. I love it. I did a video the other day because this girl, you follow her. We'll get to that here later on Instagram, but you'll see her. She's like, I'm outside doing sun squats. you're getting the sun, you're getting the blood pumping, you're getting energy. Motion is life. It's what you need. So yeah. Again, I love Epitalon. And so from Epitalon, where did you go next?
Yeah. So 10 days of Epitalon.
Yeah.
Then we started my VIP treatment to help get rid of the black mold. And that stands for vasointestinal peptide, correct?
That's right. That is correct.
And it was wild. I mean, Dr. Adams is not going to be surprised, but I was just blown away because all of the markers that came back, I retested the same exact test for mycotoxins and for the mold toxicity. All of the markers that were from the black mold, that were from the environment that I had been living in, went from high in the red down to like less than 1, meaning if the range was at 8, it was 0.74. Like, it was insane. And so I did, part of it was a nasal spray, part of it was a sub-Q injection. And so, because a big piece of mold is that it does get into the brain and it crosses that blood-brain barrier, and that can really impact just how you think and everything else. And so that was VIP. We got those results back, and then I said, okay, doc, we're now like through this healing portion. We see that the black mold is gone. I'm like, it is time for me to get back to being Amanda.
Yeah.
Like, get back to that just energetic, optimized version of me. And, you know, I had put on 35 pounds, which on my body, that's a lot of weight. Most of it was fat. It was disgusting from how I viewed health. And so I was ready to optimize again. Mm-hmm. And from January until now, like, I took myself from 28% body fat down to 15% body fat. I'll attribute a lot of that to hard work, proper nutrition, proper hydration, proper movement. But I'll also say that the peptides played a really big role in that because we got the right stack for me.
Okay, before we get into that, but yes, the stack of, and when we talk about stacking in relation to peptides, it's how we combine specific peptides and put them together. Because unlike medications, when you mix those medications like we talked about earlier, you know, it's almost there's this infinite non-understanding of what they're going to do. With peptides, because they are so specific at their receptors, like a lock and key, we stack them based on the outcomes that we're really looking for. And peptides being added in really is, it's optimizing the system. So we went through kind of that healing phase and got you to a right place. I'm going to bring you back to that with the VIP before you did the lab test. Do you remember that phone call?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, because I called and asked, okay, do you think it's a good time to retest? And you say to me, this is how I remember it, so correct me based on your memory too, but I remember you saying, so how do you feel? And I said, I feel amazing. I feel like the best I've really felt in a really long time. And you kind of reframe things for me in a way of, it really matters how you feel more than what those lab results are going to show. Because what the VIP does is it helps to build up the immunity in your body, your immune resilience. And it was such a positive reframe. What exactly did you say to me?
That's actually pretty much exactly what I said to you, because it, you know, going back to what we talked about earlier, you know, when we go through a healing journey and we have tests, again, we talk specifically, we test, we don't guess, but again, our mind is so powerful that even if we're changing, and I've always said, it's not how we feel, it's how we heal. Mm-hmm. So yes, I was asking you, how do you feel? And you said, I feel amazing. Well, people aren't going to be feeling amazing if they're not healing well. Mm-hmm. Because what is health? I think that's a big question that people don't ask themselves. They want to obtain this thing that yet they cannot define. And so I asked, what is the definition of health? I'll sit in a room full of, I think you heard me speak at Heal, and I said, hey, what is health?
It's full function, physically, mentally, socially. I like to add in spiritually as well.
And spiritually, yeah.
Not just the lack of disease.
Exactly, and that is health. It's actually stated by Dorland's Medical Dictionary. Health actually has nothing to do with how we feel, but we're based, again, in a system that everything should be based on how we feel.
If we live based on how we feel, are you kidding me? We need to live by standards and by excellence.
We have a system, and I can attest to this. In fact, when we met the very first time, even though you weren't all the way through that healing phase and going through this and living optimally, if I were to look at you I'd like, oh, she looks healthy, but you weren't. And that it's that underlining thing. So I asked you, I was like, so how do you feel? I feel great. Okay. So what VIP is doing is it has a multiple, it's derived from the intestines, kind of like a BPC. And there's so much healing that happens within our GI tract because the turnover is so much. And it's really, I mean, it's considered the second brain of the body because of the number of neurons, the release of serotonin and dopamine and all these things. And yet we take SSRIs to change our brain for things like depression and anxiety, when all of that, they're blocking receptors in our brain, when actually all of the receptors and the releases is actually coming from our GI tract, and it's not even addressed.
And I'll say, I'm going to bring in a testimonial right now because you're talking about SSRIs and serotonin and dopamine, and we live in, it breaks my heart. Research came out that 1 in 3 high school girls have seriously contemplated suicide. Like, that breaks my heart. And it should not be that way. It should not be that way. And there's a young man that was fresh out of college. I've known him since middle school. I went to school with his older brother. And he had reached out to me on Instagram just sharing how he was really struggling. We hop on a call. We talk through things. And he's currently studying for his CPA exams, but really struggling with his mental health. I'm like, hey, look, I know you have a budget right now of how much you can really invest into your health. And I understood that piece of it. I said, I want you to get yourself started with this stack. And so we put him on a bit of a lean stack, which we could get into the aesthetics piece later. That's the least important part of peptides to me, but the most well known. But I said, okay, we need to get you on Selang, Samax, and Dihexa. And he sent me a DM last week and said, Amanda, these peptides have absolutely changed my life. He said, I'm actually able to focus and get through studying for my CPA exams, which those are not easy exams and they're really hard. And I can only imagine the weight that's on him as he's working a full-time job and also studying those. But most importantly, he said his mental health has it's a night and day difference. And like, I think that's my favorite story as far as the peptides that can really help with mental health.
Sorry, if I cry at least once in this episode, it's already, I've gone to tears twice just because utilizing things like this is not just about trying to optimize a system, which it is, but there are so many people suffering that don't know that they can have help with something that doesn't have a side effect that is worse than the condition that they already have. And that's a system that they go in and they trust right now. They trust that the antidepressant is going to help their depression when the side effect is homicidal and suicidal thoughts. They go in and they trust a medication that's supposed to help their heart disease actually weakens their blood vessels and weakens their heart. We live in a system that is so skewed that people go into something that they trust, and then why do they question the things that actually can help them, that can actually transform their lives, and it's trying to be hidden from them. It is, and there's not, and quite honestly, if we want to be completely frank about it, it's because we're in a system that only cares about the dollar. The dollar. If we actually had a system, a true healthcare system, not a sick care system, just think where we would be. People walking on the streets, not wanting to hurt the person next to them, not actually going out and having shootings in schools and all these things that are happening in the world today. We would be in a system where actually there is love, there is joy, there is peace, there is patience, kindness, gentleness. I can keep going, self-control. But we are in a system that manipulates a cellular environment. That's what our healthcare, sick care system is. It manipulates instead of helping to build a system that actually creates life. And I think that's the power And then that's a deep one, and I'm going really deep, but I truly believe that is the power of what peptides, regenerative medicine, vitamin infusions, cryo, red light, sunlight, grounding. It's all the things that we have at our disposal.
It's nature. It's nature. I mean, when you're sharing all of that, I have a dear friend who lost her husband to suicide 22 years ago. And what had happened was he had been given an antidepressant to help with his sleep. 2 weeks later, my friend receives a phone call as she's on a photo shoot in Europe saying Woody's dead. He committed suicide from an antidepressant. And now she has spent the past 22 years fighting against it, creating labels on all the pharmaceuticals, showcasing how bad this is. And after the shooting that happened recently in Minneapolis area, that's where she's from. It was right down the street from where they had previously lived together. And she said, the problem is that we have a mental health problem in this world. And to me, that's the mental health it's cellular dysfunction. That's what it is. And if we could just restore the cells and their communication, we'd be a much happier, more joyful, more loving place in this country.
That's what peptide therapy is. Peptides are the language of the cell.
Mm-hmm.
I love what I do. We need to keep going, but I'm like, whew, okay. It's it hits. That is one of the things, again, I'm just going to go back to this, that I love about what we do is because it's not just creating turning points for people, like from your cycle to the mold to his mental state. It's transforming lives in so many other ways. I have stories of people that are on like the GLP-1 products that are just trying to lose fat and get to a weight that they want to be at. But then I hear the stories from them and they're coming back in and they're like, Doc, you're not going to believe, like, I don't even crave alcohol anymore. I used to drink every single night just to relax. I don't even want alcohol.
Ugh, so I just got goosebumps.
It's like, and then another one that is on a GLP-1 and they're a chronic smoker. And like, I don't even crave cigarettes anymore. There's so much more to what peptides can do than what we're being fed and what we understand from what we hear. And that's why I research these things, to help people understand that, again, whether it's Epitalon or VIP or a GLP-1 or any of these peptides, they work so specific on these receptors and signaling that once one thing can actually start to work, it has this pleiotropic effect within this system that the body's like, thank you. Thank you for getting this turned on to make this more efficient. Now I can actually start doing these other things, that actually create full restoration.
Yeah. And I remember too, talking about restoration. In April, I came to you and I said, Doc, my ankle has been bugging me since January. I rolled my ankle like the dumbest way, and I was doing all of the PT you could imagine. Like, I was at one of the top PT spots where like Dak Prescott was doing PT for a while.
Right next to you?
No. Like, not
darn.
at the same time.
I was like, man, we need to get his autograph or something.
No. But he had previously been in there when he was getting his rehab done. And a lot of professional athletes are in there. And I say that because it was a high quality PT spot.
Yeah.
And my ankle was not getting better. Granted, I was still dancing on it.
Were you resting?
I had stopped running, but it was just a period of time where I really couldn't stop everything that I was doing because I had a goal in mind. And so I said, what can I do? You said, all right, we're going to double the dose of the Wolverine, which is BPC 157 with TB 500 for 2 weeks. That'll get you perfectly timed for what you need to be ready for in 2 weeks. And within 10 days, my ankle was fully functioning, back ready to go. I was leaping, I was turning, I was running on the treadmill again, completely better. And it's kind of become a staple for me, the Wolverine and the copper peptide together, because put a lot of stress on my body and it really helps.
That combination. So for you, what we had done, it was 1 milligram daily. Typically I recommend 500 micrograms. If it's a good quality peptide that is strong, pure, you don't need a lot. So we were doing 1 milligram a day. And then we add in the copper because it works with collagen production. Again, copper is one of those, I call it like it's a secret peptide, kind of like Epitalon, where, it does, people think of it like for hair, skin, and nails. We hear copper all the time. It's like, oh, I've got a copper topical. I've got this. The transformations I've seen with copper from women a lot.
The aesthetics piece.
The aesthetics and the hair. The hair gets thicker hair, more voluminous. It happens with me too. Wait, no, sorry. That's Mr. Clean here, shiny and squeaky. So this is my solar panel, people. It's okay. But it also activates, I think it's somewhere between like 400 and 4,000 different enzymes and genes within the system for longevity to help with nerve repair, tissue repair. All of these things. It's incredible. Plus, it's a gorgeous like purple color.
I think it's blue.
Am I colorblind? And I don't know it. Is there a peptide for that?
I guess it's like a It's like,
kind of a
it's like an indigo.
Blue.
It's
yes.
like the indigo color.
But it's gorgeous. I love it. I like just like looking at the GHKCU, and I'm like, oh, it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. And I promise you won't turn indigo by taking it, right? Yes. Hey, no. You are gonna be in the glow. Okay, that was really bad. That was super bad. And the dad jokes will keep coming. But yeah, and again, these transformative stories are incredible. From, with you from Epitalon to VIP, and then you said, hey doc, let's go.
I said, it's time to go. It's time to lock in. Like, let's get a nice lean stack going. I want to look this way in 2 months. So what are we going to do? And so we got me on a GLP-3, tesamorelin, and AOD. And granted, you can't just take those and not do the work. You have to put in the work. That's the thing with peptides, is that your body has to be primed for them. They're only going to be as effective as you are putting in the work and taking action.
Like anything in life.
Yeah, but I just have to put it out there, because the misconception with GLPs is that you're going to lose your muscle. Well, I'll tell you this, is that I actually put on 7 pounds of muscle. So went up to 78 pounds skeletal muscle mass per the in-body scan. And my body fat percentage from kind of right when I started using peptides until now went from 28% down to 15%.
And this is all, what I love is that you do so much with data. And that, because the numbers that you share are not just like, oh, I went from here and I just went over here. You're from your Whoop watch to the in-body scans.
Yeah, well, it's important because if you don't have the data, then you're just guessing, you're just floating through life. And I think that's where most of this country is. They're just floating through life. And imagine if we were more intentional and that we actually use data. And I think that's kind of my superpower. And what I tell people, because in a previous lifetime, I was a CPA working in private equity, I just tell people I take my love for numbers, which was in financial statements, and I just put them into optimizing the human body. And so the more data, the better. And it's been so transformative, because there was actually a period of time this year where I was like, dang, I put on 5 pounds. What's going on? Why am I putting weight back on? Then I went and did the in-body scan, and sure enough, my body fat percentage went down, and I gained 3.3 pounds of skeletal muscle mass. And so it was like, oh no, Amanda, you are actually getting healthier. You are getting more fit. Your visceral fat now is at a level 3, which is phenomenal, which is exactly where I want it to be. And your body is doing exactly what it needs to do. So that's why the right data matters.
Absolutely. And you talk about like visceral fat, and a lot of people may not understand there's different types of fat on your body, so that visceral fat is what surrounds those organs, like around the liver and the intestines and all those areas. And that's really the fat that is a big determining factor of like overall health, like cardiovascular risks and everything. I was actually just went through my certification at the SEEDS conference. Really cool. I love it. I mean, the science, my brain. I think I came back Monday. I would almost say that I was brain dead, but I wasn't. There was so much deep information. One of the things that I took away from that is actually the number one thing for checking longevity in all of the testing that we do is actually your VO2 max. VO2 max is like the number one indicator on your longevity.
Yeah. VO2 max is for longevity. HRV is for your nervous system. Those two are the two markers that I track really closely.
And you track. Yeah. And I love it.
Yeah.
Which is why if you need somebody, and don't reach out to me, please. I'm just here to educate, and I'm going to direct you where you need to go.
No, we won't even be able to. So, they won't even be able to get a hold of you.
But I will tell you, I think that's a good point though too, because you said, "Hey man, my weight went up." So often, again, whether it's what people will call their weight loss journey, I say we're not in a weight loss journey here. We're in a fat loss journey. And we have to, again, shifting our mindset, shift the narrative because as you are losing fat, and if you're doing it properly and guided by somebody that knows what they're doing, and you're actually doing your exercise and you're moving, getting in the nutrients that you need. And, we talk about a GLP-3, which if some people haven't heard of that, it's retatrutide. I mean, it's GLP-1, GLP-2, and then a glucagon receptor. And how that works is it revs up your metabolism as well. I'm on it as well. I take a very low dose regularly just to help regulate my own metabolic function and insulin. And it hits you less on the appetite suppression than like the semaglutides or the tirzepatides, which is really cool. In fact, there's times where I feel hungry more and I'm eating more healthy foods, high protein, but I keep getting leaner. It's almost like maybe we should have an understanding of how metabolism works, mitochondrial function, that actual VO2 max, the aerobic, anaerobic processes that happen in our body, which, again, nobody really thinks about. They just think, okay, if I go to the gym and I get on the treadmill for 2 hours, I'm going to lose weight. Holy cow, you want to talk about cortisol spikes?
You want to put your body in fight or flight?
Cortisol spikes, and they're the same. Both, actually, this happens more in women, I think. It's like, for men, I call it like, I don't like saying this for women, but like it's the skinny fat type of thing. It's like, man, I work out so hard. How come I'm not losing any of this?
Yeah, cortisol.
Your cortisol.
Especially in your midsection, most of the time it's cortisol.
Yeah.
That or your face. Usually for my face, I can tell when I'm getting cortisol face.
Yeah, and so like, again, utilizing retatrutide, again, revs that metabolism, helps with some of the appetite suppression. Tesamorelin, the reason why we put you on that is just, I mean, it was researched early on with HIV patients. So HIV patients were dealing with what's called sarcopenia, muscle loss and muscle wasting. And they were getting these, from the medication that they were on in this clinical research, they were getting these like pot bellies. So think of it like a beer belly. That's hardened visceral fat. That's not that fat on the outer layer, because you look at some of these guys with these beer bellies, and like you can see their abs, but yet their belly sticks out like 6 inches, because that's all that fat internally affecting the liver and all of those areas. So tesamorelin, what they found is when they started giving it to these patients in this trial to help with to literally slow down this muscle wasting or the sarcopenia, because that is one of the things, is a growth hormone secretagogue. They started noticing that all of a sudden, like the belly started to shrink and diminish. So tesamorelin is one of my favorite growth hormone secreting hormone peptides. Works on from your, multiple places, pituitary, hypothalamus, regulation within the system. It's not like giving yourself a synthetic growth hormone. But synthetic growth hormone you just inject in, and then it just puts it through your bloodstream. This actually creates a pulsative action on the pituitary to release growth hormone in a natural way.
Does it.
In a natural way. And all of a sudden these bellies start to diminish. And so I tell people, hey, if you're trying to hit this region and really lean up and get that combination, it also helps with sleep, which is another great thing. So there's those. And then the third part of your stack. So we had retatrutide, we had tesamorelin,
and then
we had the AOD, which AOD 9604, if you look it up, it stands for anti-obesity drug. It's like, I call it like it's like the fat whisperer, if you want to call it that, because it literally creates lipolysis or fat breakdown, and it's a fragment of growth hormone. So in fact, in a sense, it works in all aspects of the growth hormone except for the growth portion. So breaking down that fat tissue fast, hard to reach areas, and it's also works in a mechanism of not allowing more fat to be developed or produced. And an added benefit is actually helps with joint health as well.
Yeah, and I would say too that we just put me on a 2-month stack at first, and then I'm like, okay, let's do another 2 months. And it's wild because I came off them for 2 months, and I got my in-body scan 2 months later, after I'd been off for 2 months. And that is when my skeletal muscle mass went up by 3.3 pounds, and my body fat still continued to drop, which just shows that it has lasting effects in my body.
Yeah, and it also takes time to get there. Like anything, so there are some peptides, when you look at them, it's like, well, how quickly am I going to notice a response? I mean, there are some like PT141, which helps with libido, sex drive for both men and women. I mean, there's actually research and studies specifically for women. And then men also use it. It's actually, I mean, I don't know if I can actually, I think I can say that. I mean, research shows it's actually better and lasts longer than Cialis or Viagra. But think of it like a Cialis Viagra for women. That's really what it was researched for, and FDA approved for that.
I don't know anything about this because I don't need this one.
Okay, but so I'm bringing this one up because people ask, well, how quickly is the peptide going to start working? Yeah. Something like that, I mean, within a couple hours. Yeah. But when you start working on like a growth hormone secretagogue or like something like a GLP-1 or an AOD, you realize that, again, it's almost, again, it's like small whispers to the cell that over time, it's almost like that subconscious response to the cell then will elicit what the conscious brings, which is the change and the transformation physically.
Well, what matters is how much interference do you have in your body? And so my body was perfectly primed for peptides. That's why Epitalon worked so effectively, because I had just spent 18 months healing my body, getting all the foundations reset and getting really solid ground. Yeah. So that is one thing that if someone will ask me, well, how long? I'm like, well, we're going to start you on a 4-month protocol because that's what's recommended to really be able to see those effects. It could be sooner than that you start to see them. It could be a little bit longer. It's just going to depend on the amount of interference in your body. You think about it, some people come in, they've had autoimmune conditions for over 20 years. So we know that, okay, if that was 20 years, well, then there was another 5-10 years before that it was slowly building to that. So this isn't going to unravel itself overnight. However, I will say it is so much more effective than what these medications are. I think about a client of mine who came into me with Hashimoto's. It's a thyroid condition, thyroid of the autoimmune. And she, I think, was diagnosed when she was in her teen years, like maybe 13, 14, 15. And she had tried everything. She came in with probably 100 pages worth of lab tests for me to review before we even got her tests done. And she's young. She's still in her 20s. So she's been battling this for about a decade. And we finally got her. Well, what we uncovered that the thyroid was actually just a signal. It was a warning sign saying, hey, there's actually something else deeper. What we found out was that she had a pathogen, that she had mold toxicity, and that she also had a few micronutrient lack of efficiencies. And so those were the 3 root causes. The thyroid wasn't the root cause, yet no one in the past decade had found that out. And so we had to walk her through a specific protocol before I was like, okay, I think you're ready for peptides, because there's a lot of healing that needed to happen. And so we started her with Epitalon, right? And then put her on thymosin alpha 1. The next one we're building up to right now is BPC 157, or actually going to put her on the combo. So BPC 157, TB 500. And she wanted to do it a little bit more staggered. And she said, you know what? I actually feel like my sleep is now getting better. And that was 2 months later. And she could notice, okay, the thymosin alpha 1, I forgot we also put her on VIP, because she had mold toxicity, But it was one of those things where this was a decade plus in the making of her getting here. And so when she was saying, I'm not seeing the results I want, I said, be patient with yourself. It took a really long time for your body to get here. Give yourself grace. Your body is healing. There are a lot of wins. The pathogen is gone. We're getting rid of the mold right now. And the peptides are slowly starting to do their thing, but it takes time. It takes patience. And we're just slowly removing that interference.
I love it. And where is she now? So you said, how long has she been?
So we've been working together for almost a year now. And she has lost a lot of fat. She looks really great. I think the best thing is that she's starting to actually feel good in her body again. And that's something that I think most of the time when I have conversations with women, they care less about the number on the scale and they care more about how they feel. And most of the time it's that we just know how we like to feel and we don't feel that way. And she sees that this has been a long journey, but what she has seen, we've seen complete improvements in her labs. Like she was like, praise the Lord, the pathogen is gone. Right now we're working through the VIP, but she's feeling her inflammation has gone down completely from the thymosin alpha-1. So there are so many things, but I would say it's less of the physical responses and more of the confidence and her feeling that she's finally off of this health hamster wheel and that there's been hope and that there's been healing. And I love it because she's such a woman of faith. And so I think this whole journey has really strengthened that for her and shown that healing is possible and that there are solutions and that she feels really well equipped to be able to enter back into like this transformative time in her life.
I love it. One thing that hit me there too. You talk about this hamster wheel of health. I always called it the merry-go-round of misery. Our healthcare system of
merry-go-round of misery.
I go a little bit deeper on that, but but it's the same concept. I mean, we live in this truly a merry-go-round system of, light medications like an off-the-shelf to stronger medications that are prescribed to then a surgical implication to maybe a deeper surgical implementation that then puts us back over into a stronger medication. And then we're stuck in it for the rest of our life.
Well, I'll tell you that I've had to advocate so hard for her because she also has a functional PA that prescribes her thyroid medication. And she got really bad food poisoning in the middle of our protocol, which kind of led us into like, okay, your body needs to just chill for a little bit.
Yeah.
And she started losing hair. She started getting stressed out through this. So her story is like, we kept hitting wall after wall after wall. And that's where like being able to get in the weeds with someone. And her functional PA had prescribed her a medication for her hair loss. And I really was saying, I really don't think that that's the best idea. And I'm like, what's the name of the medication? I started doing my own research on it. And the medication was supposed to help with her androgens, if androgens were in excess, which is connected to your testosterone, right? And I immediately message her. I say, hey, your androgens are actually in a really healthy range. I don't think that this medication is going to do anything for you. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, she's like, my hair's not getting any better. I'm actually getting a bunch of negative side effects. This is happening, this is happening, this is happening. Names all these different symptoms. Again, very kindly, I say, I think some of that might be connected to the medication. I would strongly consider pulling off of it, weaning yourself off of it. And so she did. And we got her on the copper peptide, right, for her hair to grow. And all the symptoms went away.
Letting the body do what it needs to do. Beautiful. I love it. So good. You've got a lot of stories. You're helping a lot of people.
They're never ending. They're never ending.
Okay, I want to do a rapid fire with you.
Okay.
Real quick. This is going to be fun, okay?
And I have one rapid fire question for you at the end.
Oh boy, okay. It usually doesn't go that way, but okay, we'll do this.
I have one.
Some of these I'm actually probably going to already know, but we're going to go through this anyway. First peptide for someone burned out but ready to begin.
Epitalon.
So we all knew that. That's what I was going to say. Okay, for you, a favorite test that you do before using peptides or anything that you implement?
I hate to say that it depends on the person, but it really is. Everyone's bio-individual. Personally, I like to, the more data, the better, obviously within reason, but I like to look at your gut. I like to look at how your hormones are metabolizing. So looking at your sex hormones, your adrenal hormones, I like to look at comprehensive blood work, and I like to look at toxins. Oxidative stress, though, that's a marker that I would say most people don't look at. And there's like 4 different levels of stress. At the top is oxidative stress. I've heard it dubbed the human equivalent to rusting. And I actually had one client whose oxidative stress marker was through the roof. And through our protocol, which involved peptides, we were able to take that marker that was 3-4x beyond where it should have been, all the way down to 0.74.
What's the main marker that you look for oxidative stress?
8-hydroxy-2-deoxyguanosine.
That's
OHDG for short.
And that's a simple test. Anybody can get anywhere, right? I mean, hey, no. But it is true. Oxidative stress is a big one, and we can even touch briefly on oxidative stress. I mean, it's something people hear of antioxidants, and they're such a big thing too. People are like, oh, I need my antioxidants. But do they even know why they're talking into antioxidants?
Probably not.
Amanda, take us to class. Let's go.
Well, reactive oxygen species, right?
Yes.
And so our bodies, when there's so much stress, that could be a buildup from medications, it could be from toxins, it could be from real or perceived stress, emotional stress, mental stress, work stress, relationship stress, all of that. What we resist persists, so that will build up in your body. That's what causes disease. And I actually see a lot of times correlation between people who have experienced a lot of trauma that they haven't worked through, a lot of emotional healing that they haven't worked through, or people that just downright don't treat their bodies well. They have big toxin overload, a big toxic buildup from heavy metals, from mold toxicity, from environmental toxins. Their 8-hydroxy-2-deoxyguanosine is really high. And so what we do, right? That's where something like SS31 comes in, right? That would be one. What else would you throw in there for oxidative stress?
MOTS-C
Yep.
Is a big one. NAD is great for that. And just so that people know, it is compared to rust. And so I was going to actually mention this when you're talking about layers of healing. Because if you think of rust on a car or on metal, first thing you have to do is you've got to remove that rust. Yep. You got to get it off, and then you're going to do something to create a protective barrier over that. And so when I talk about, and there's multiple for oxidative stress and damage, but a phenomenal combination that I always talk about for that is actually NAD, which is not a peptide. It's actually a coenzyme, but NAD is, well, I'll take it even further here. We're going to talk about the mitochondria, okay? Because the mitochondria is the fuel house, the powerhouse of the cell. It's like, whew, that's how we get everything. And it's what creates ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which again, that's the energy, not just for the cell, but again, we have the mitochondria, we have the cell, the cellular energy, the cell communicating with the other one. And then every cell then, once combined, it creates the skin, it creates the heart, it creates the lungs. Cells are what create every organ within our system. So we're going not just on a cellular level of communication, we're going an intracellular level of communication with things like NAD. I call that the fuel of the mitochondria, which it really is. MOTS-C is like the orchestrator of that mitochondria and helps with mitochondrial even replication, getting more mitochondria for more energy. And then SS31 is like that protector, that covering. So again, you clean up the rust, you give what's needed to give, you create that barrier, and now you have an efficient, or as efficient as possibly can be, an optimized mitochondrial function, which then that has a multitude of layers. When I was at the SEAS conference I talked about earlier, it was like the whole 2 days talked about mitochondrial efficiency, oxidative stress, these reactive oxygen species, and utilizing things like MOTS-C, SS31, NAD through this. But what was interesting to me is there were so many different topics. We talked about degenerative joint disease, we talked about autoimmune, we talked about neurodegeneration, and every single one of them they talked about oxidative stress being the underlining
cancer is a big
issue.
one.
Cancer is being the underlining thing that literally, if we could address that, it has, again, this multitude of effects to help with those things.
Yeah. How I was educated was that there was like 4 tiers to stress, and that oxidative stress was at the top. And so you have oxidative stress. If we're testing everything and your oxidative stress comes back high, we have a lot of work to do. And a lot of times it's those things that I mentioned. It's the medications, it's the toxins, it's how you're talking to your own brain, it's your emotional health, it's your mental health, it's your relationships. It all matters.
Healing has layers. It's the fact. I mean, it is what it is.
That was a rapid fire question.
That was a rapid fire question. That was a long-winded rapid fire question that we both went into. It was a lot of fun. One more rapid fire question, because I know you have one for me. A myth about peptides that you want to debunk.
A myth about peptides. I would say that the average person thinks that they're the wild, wild west, and that they're actually, because, you know, they're for research purposes or there's not enough research. No, there's plenty of research out there that shows their healing modalities. And what most people don't realize is that insulin was one of the very first peptides that was known, right? And you look at, okay, well, what's a protein? A protein is just chains of amino acids. And if it's 50, right? If it's 50 chains of amino acids or more, that makes a protein. And anything less makes a peptide. So they are natural. And the reason why I think they get such a maybe negative reputation is because there's a lack of education. There's a lack of awareness. People are doing doses that are way too high. That would be a big myth, that you need a big dose of things for it to be effective. Maybe that's the number one myth. You don't, it's microdosing. That's what's really effective. Your body doesn't even need that much. Like I have one of them that I take, literally 2 units. It's the tiniest little bit. Small. It's hardly anything. And it's so effective. That one's melanotan. That one helps tan my skin because I don't get
so it keeps my solar panel clean.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. There's so many layers to the myths of it. And I think it all comes down to awareness and proper education of it. And I will say that Big Pharma does not want to see peptides win. So they're going to do everything that they can to ensure that we stay sick and we stay bought into paying for medications.
I mean, even to the point that they're trying to now take and turn, and I just listened to another podcast on, I mean, they're trying to take and say that peptides are biologics. And so they're trying to figure out ways that they can actually patent peptides. People ask me, is this going to happen? And I'm like, they will always try anything. I mean, most pharmaceutical companies will buy patents and products just to close the door on them, just to not allow them to be there. So that stuff is happening, which is why we need advocates. We need people to be able to come and to continue to educate and bring the real information as to what they are. So, okay. Am I ready for your question for me?
So it's time to build the ultimate Amanda stack right now, the ultimate peptide princess stack. I'll tell you where I'm at in life. So quite abundant and full life. My days are very long, right? And I'm dancing, I'm training, I am working a lot. I need my brain sharp at all times. I want my body comp looking great. I have been in communication with someone potentially going to go hike a mountain, like a tall peak somewhere in this world. So prepare me for based on what you know about my health, what would be the ultimate stack to take away for myself today? And I'm just going to say, we're going to start with dihexa because that's a no-brainer.
So I love it because the moment I gave you one capsule, you're like, this stuff, it works. So before we go there, you got to now explain about dihexa.
Okay, dihexa. So, oh my goodness, where do I begin?
First of all, I call it the limitless peptide.
It literally is. So my grandfather passed away from Alzheimer's in 2020. And when that happened, my mom and I went and got testing done to see if we carried the gene. And we both do. And so as soon as I knew that, I said, I'm going to do everything in my power to keep my brain sharp. What I knew up until we had met was the way to do that is to eat well, hydrate well, move your body, do word puzzles, or dance a lot. And I dance a lot. So I'll do more dancing than I will word puzzles. But then I started talking to Dr. Adam about this, and he says, oh, you got to try Dihexa. And we sat down for a podcast interview it was a while ago now. And you gave me one, and it is wild. Your brain just locks in. And what it does is it works, it's neurogenesis and synaptogenesis, right?
Yeah.
And so what it does is there's research showing that.
What am I needed for?
I mean, you're the one who taught me everything I know. So yeah, there's actually research showing that it helps people that either already have Alzheimer's or to prevent the onset of it. Granted, right? Like genes are only 10% of it. It's our lifestyle choices that flip that gene on or off, but I'm gonna do everything I can to prevent that. And I've danced since I was 18 months old. I've learned, I don't even know how many routines in my lifetime, a lot. And I remember saying, okay, I'm going to try Dihexa before going into a dance class. I took it about 15 minutes before I walk in. I texted him afterwards. And keep in mind, like, I work a full day as an entrepreneur. I wake up at 5 a.m. I go to the gym. I'm home. I'm working all day. Then I drive 30 minutes to go to a dance class at 8 p.m. at night. So it's a full day.
You're going.
I'm going. And I got out of this class and I texted Dr. Adam. I said, Doc, I was lights out tonight. And for the very first time in my life, I didn't have trouble learning the choreography. And so what Dihexa does is it helps both with short-term and long-term memory. There's a lot of other benefits to it as well. But for me, it was like such a perfect example of, wow, this is how effective it is. And now I take it every single day. It helps me lock in.
Yeah, I love because you said, I was lights out, but what Dihexa does is it turned the lights on. I mean, that's really what it does. It's like, poof, I've had other people who have taken it, and in fact, we're about to launch it with the company. We've been sharing this information on some sprays that we're going to be using, some legal sprays, which is going to actually be this is going to be a nasal, but it's a nano-encapsulated product that's like Dihexa, Selank, and Samax. And to take it even further from what you're saying, I mean, this lights on mechanism that, again, I call the limitless peptide. Dihexa, it helps to increase, again, yes, that synaptic activity. So your neurons from your brain, body, I mean, there's little gaps in between them, and signals have to get between and across from those. And I will tell you this with Alzheimer's too. We work with Alzheimer's Foundation, and it was interesting because they were talking to me about the number one cause of Alzheimer's. And they're like, everybody talks about plaque and then like insulin and all these things for aging, because insulin ages things much faster, especially nerves. And he goes, actually, the number one cause that we've seen in our research is actually a lack of deep sleep.
Yeah.
Into the deep delta sleep.
Yes.
So
yes.
Anyway,
yes.
No,
that's totally true. And that's why as soon as I got those test results back, that's why I think data is powerful. Whenever someone tells me, oh, I don't want to know what's going on inside my body, well, I said, well, like, you either figure out what's going on inside your body right now, you invest in your health right now, or you're going to pay for it when you're sitting in a hospital bed eating your medication as food 5, 10, 15 years from now.
It's either proactive or reactive, whichever you want to be. That's up to you.
Yeah.
Because we can't push in anything. I don't work on convincing anybody of anything anymore. Yeah. It's like, I'll give you the information. Yeah. It's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. Yep. It's that. But yeah, so I love Dihexa. It's incredible. Okay, so, oh boy. Okay, so my mind, if there's a picture right now of my mind right now, people, like, my mind goes like this. But then it's like, whoosh, it really is everywhere. And because my head, it's almost like it goes through boom, 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 boom. I keep thinking of all these different products and peptides that could fit this. And so high energy, you talk about maintaining, your body composition, which is a big thing. I think mental clarity, and the thing is, even with your rest and mental clarity, I would say first and foremost, if you, Epitalon, which we didn't mention, do it twice a year. So 10 days, 10 milligrams a day, twice a year. Some people will do 5 milligrams for 20 days. I'm one that's like, let me get my 10 days in and just, we're done. Yeah. So I would say if you're up for that next one, I would hit that right away.
Exactly.
Okay. Dihexa, yes, because I mean, that's your go-to, that's your staple.
It's my staple.
If you want to stack with Dihexa, knowing that you are constantly going from like 5 a.m., and I know you're doing your workout, like your dance at 8, which means you're not done at 8.
Yeah, it means
you're just starting it and going. again, cortisol, stress, you're constantly going. So one that I really like is N-acetyl-salang. Salang's a good one. And when I say this, I get people that will come to me and I'll say, well, it's an anti-anxiety peptide. And they're like, whoa, I don't have anxiety. In fact, I had one person say, I'm a psychologist. I can handle my own anxiety. I'm like, well, what? It's like, as I was a chiropractor, I had a patient come in one time and they go, I'm a personal therapist or a personal therapy trainer. Like I can adjust myself. And I'm like, phenomenal. I'm a chiropractor and I went to school for this and I can't even do that. I can't adjust myself. But it's not about, again, getting past that term of anxiety. What it does is it lowers the stress level, which when we think of, again, the other effects that brings is that will lower the cortisol level. Yeah. And what it does is it actually helps in combination with that increase. It's your natural brain-derived neural growth factor. Mm-hmm. So it actually helps with growing, in fact, new synaptic connections within the brain. That's a powerful thing. Yeah. And so like that's a good like brain stack that I love.
N-acetyl-salang, right? That's what it is? Yeah. Yeah, I have a few clients that have done it that are kind of in that menopausal range where their hormones have been all over the place and their stress levels are really high. And I've seen it work wonders for them, stacking it with dihexa.
So there's a couple. Dihexa, great. I mean, because it's a capsule. There's no injection. On the other side, on body comp, I'd go with MOTS-C. I think MOTS-C would be a great one. My recommendation on that and just the dosing side of it, again, mitochondrial drive. NAD is always a good staple because it's a fuel. MOTS-C, I like doing 5 milligrams 3 days a week for a month, and then I take a month off. Then I do 3 days a week for a month. I kind of rotate back and forth. The reason it actually helps with regulating insulin within the body, helps with body composition. But what you'll notice with MOTS-C is like during your workouts, you're going to have an endurance that you're not used to. And most of the people that I've worked with, I worked with a gentleman that I can't remember the mountain that he went on, which is funny because you're talking about that. I had him on MOTS-C. Okay. And he's like, it was game changing for him.
I can't wait. So you know what? To begin training, because there's not very many mountains in Dallas.
Yeah,
I live on
there are stair climbers, but
I live on the 37th floor of my apartment complex, and so I've been just walking the stairs.
Nobody else would do that, but that's amazing. So now you're gonna. I know you. You're gonna start timing yourself. How long did it take me to do this?
The very first time I did it took me 11 minutes.
Wow. And where are you at now?
Well, I just started. This is like a brand new thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I just connected with a friend that kind of put it in my mind, like, yeah, maybe start training for this, Amanda. So
I love it.
It's a new thing.
All right, and then the last one, which is going to hit a few things. It's actually a combination peptide. It's actually AOD, CJC, and ipamorelin. Okay, I don't think we've really talked about this one much.
No, we've talked about TCI, but not this one.
So there's TCI. I'm going to go with AOD because you're still getting the AOD to help with the composition, but CJC 1295 is also another growth hormone secretagogue with ipamorelin, which is actually, so you have a growth hormone secretagogue, and now you have a growth hormone peptide secretagogue that work together. And ipamorelin is really cool because of its back regulation to not allow your body to overproduce growth hormone.
Which is so important.
Right.
Yeah. I just tested my growth hormone recently.
Yeah, so it's a really good, and it helps with like IGF levels, maintaining that. But instead of trying to do like just a tesamorelin and just an AOD, utilizing a product that has all three of those in one is going to really help with the body comp. Again, you're going to have the MOTS-C for that energy. You're going to still notice energy, better sleep, recovery, again, with the growth hormone secretagogues in there too. So how many of those did you think I was actually going to put you on that you're like, I'm on it for this, and then I surprised you with some?
Okay, so I saw the MOTS-C coming because I just built a stack for someone, and we included MOTS-C for her.
You thought I was going to do the exact same one that I did for her, probably, right?
Well, you know what?
Or were you hoping?
So I'm waiting to get, I just did a hormone zoomer for myself, which the hormone zoomer looks at your hormones over 24 hours, and it looks at how they're metabolizing. And as soon as I get those results back, that'll determine if I also add in SS31 for that.
Yeah. I was going to say it, but sometimes I try to I don't like to get people on too many
much
things
at once. Yes,
yeah.
exactly. And I know that I'm not coming off dihexa because that's my staple.
It's a staple.
I'm ready for Epitalon again because I am due for Epitalon. MOTS-C, yes. And also the Wolverine and copper peptide for me, that stack, that's just one that I consistently feel a difference when I'm on it, and I'm constantly putting wear and tear on my body with all of the training that I do. And I just like to look and feel great. And so that's why I like the GHKCU, right?
Yeah.
But the one that I think I learned more about was the AOD one that you mentioned, the AOD, CJC, ipamorelin.
Yeah, it's a great combination. Yeah, and there's also some out there. I mean, like the tesamorelin, CJC, ipamorelin combo. That's a really strong stack. But I think where your body composition already is, and if you're adding in the MOTS-C, I don't think you need something as strong as like a tesamorelin. So that's where my brain processing goes to. Where
you're listening. Oh, you're already at 15% body fat. We don't need to get you down anymore.
No, because what happened last time when your body fat went too low?
Yeah,
it messes up every regulation.
Really sick. Yeah,
which is also a very key point. Is that you don't want your body fat to be too low because fat is essential. I mean, your brain's made of fat. Nerves, your hormones, and if you, well, I'll go to this real quick. Why is sunlight so important? There's this little vitamin called D3 that your body needs, and your body will produce it if you get out in the sun.
Yeah.
So getting some sunshine, even if you live in Seattle, find it somewhere. I don't know where, but find it. Get a red light therapy.
Yeah. I will say that vitamin D is the most common lack of efficiency that I see when I get blood results back. And it's really sad because if you look at the lab, even the lab company that I work with, they're phenomenal, but they still look at that marker through a normal lens. So they say that anything 30 and up is a good range. 30, I said it 30 to 100, I think it is. Don't quote me exactly. I know that 30 is the bottom point though. If your vitamin D is at 30, none of the systems in your body are really going to be working effectively. I like to see that marker around 60. And most of the time it takes a while to get people up there. I see numbers as low as 19, 12. It's really, that's one thing.
That and so many people go for multivitamins. So no,
that's
you need to be more specific.
It's like a trash can.
It is. Magnesium is probably the other one that I see as a major deficiency. People don't get enough magnesium.
Yeah, and I personally love powdered magnesium. Especially when I'm dancing late at night, I'll get home at 10:30 and I'm wired. I have adrenaline still kind of pumping through my body, and so I'll heat up my tea with hot water, pour it in, add my scoop of magnesium, and my body immediately relaxes. And it's such a good point because it's the D3 with the magnesium together that actually are needed for the systems in our body. One of them alone, the other one alone isn't as effective. We need both of them to be working at max capacity.
See, we're more than just peptides. Even though this is the Peptide Pulse. I mean, we're bringing you so much information. It's gonna be transformative for you. It is for us, right?
Yeah,
I love it. Well, so you were asking about the stacks. I mean, I knew that the BPC and the TB were kind of your staples already. Yeah, I mean, you have your staples, but yeah, I think that with what you're going for, and then again, I think in any sort of a stack program process, there's transition and change through it too. So we can't even say that it's going to be the exact same throughout that whole time frame, because we also have to listen to the body. I will say with growth hormone secretagogues and utilizing those and helping clinicians and the education and understanding, again, the research behind it, some people work very, very well with certain peptides, especially growth hormone secretagogues, that they don't respond the same to all of them. Like they may respond to CJC a certain way, and they might not respond to samorelin the same way that they do there. They all hit different receptors. And so there may be something within that body, that person, that doesn't really react. So you have to be able to monitor. And I think that's why it's also important to have guidance when you do this.
I do have a question. So
I hope I have an answer.
We'll see, because it just pops into my brain. So genetically speaking, I have I'm more prone towards leptin resistance. And you're familiar with leptin, right? So based on that, like no matter what I do, my leptin numbers do not come down. Like you would think that I weigh 500 pounds based on what my leptin numbers are alone. When you see that number high, because most of the time that has to do with metabolic dysfunction for the average person, but I know metabolically I'm very healthy. So it's quite interesting. But then I started looking at my genetics and I'm like, oh, it's literally because I have a gene that just it's been flipped on for a really long time, probably. So what peptide would you recommend for that one?
Well, I'm going to go back to Epitalon, talking about gene, even though, so again, here's the thing. Somebody's recommended, so getting into the constant stressors that our bodies come on, you can have, and I've had people that are on Epitalon for their 10 days and like, I didn't notice anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, should you expect something immediately? Not necessarily, because you even made the comment, one of your clients, they didn't notice a sleep change until 2 months after the Epitalon. Your body, it has to transition. It's like we're asking it to do something. We're helping to give it the signal and the language that it needs. That doesn't always necessarily mean that the body is ready to make that change. And so, and one of the reasons in Kabat-Zinn's protocol that we talk about doing it, again, twice a month is because I think even with Epitalon, DNA change, DNA repair, all these things, maybe we're hitting layer 1 the first time. The second time, we're probably hitting layer 2. The third time, we could be hitting layer 3. Or we're still hitting layer 2 because we haven't even hit everything that we need.
Yeah.
So I would still go for that as Epitalon as a marker for there. But yeah, I mean, leptin is a huge indicator, more so even than insulin a lot of times when it comes to weight and all of that. We did talk about this at the conference, and it's funny that you mentioned leptin because I still remember studying leptin a long time ago, and most people don't discuss it, especially in the ketogenic world. I talk about it there, but where I would go with that is the NAD-MOTC SS31 combination. Again, in anything that's happening in our body due to oxidative stress, oxidative damage, it is an underlining layer to all of it.
What I learned is if the number is not going down over time, then that's like, Houston, we have a problem. And I think a lot of it comes from people who are chronic dieters, which, hello. Yeah. That was me until I learned properly how to fuel my body. And so I think that had been built up over many years. You have to fit a certain look as a dancer and as an athlete, and you just push and push and push until your body says no, which is not the way to go. And that's why rest is essential. And that's why, like I said, like we only can perform to the level that we are rested. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's also looking at tests, and they are a guidance and they are a direction. And we talked about this when you asked me about your test. I remember this too, because I said, well, what if it doesn't change? Yeah. Are you going to be okay? Yeah. Is it going to determine the direction of your health, even though all these other factors have improved? Because again, just because you take a test today doesn't mean that it can't change tomorrow or shift or transition. So, having your leptin levels where they are, I think that also is an indicator that, there's still underlining work that your body is ready for. And this may be the next phase that gets it to where it needs to go. Yeah. So it's layer by layer. Yeah. It's a never stop journey. And the good thing is that the numbers have been coming down, but they just started at such a high place. I was like, this is astronomical. You would think that I weigh 500 pounds. Which again, so if you don't understand what leptin is, Amanda, take him to school. It's a hormone that has to do with, it's hunger. It has to do with hunger. Which most people think that the GLP-1s, what they are interconnected with that because hunger, appetite, satiety. But it does have to do with appetite. And so appetite regulation. What they found in research is that those that are overweight have a higher level of leptin and they're hungry all the time. Yeah. Yeah, because if it's higher, then pretty much that hormone gets confused. And so then it just tells you you're hungry, you're hungry, you're hungry. Wait, no, I'm good. Okay, so I answered your rapid fire. That wasn't a rapid fire. I mean, we went deep into it, but that was awesome. Thank you for answering. Yes, because I'm ready. I'm ready for my stat. You're ready to go, Kristen. Yeah, here we go. Thank you. Truly, thank you so much for coming on the Peptide Pulse. It was an honor to have you. I mean, we've been talking about this actually even before the launch of the Peptide Pulse. Like,
Yeah.
we need to bring you in. I want to share your journey, the journey that you've been sharing, your journey with others that has now helped them to create their journeys. And it's a beautiful thing. And so again, thank you. It's been an honor. And I'm excited to do this again sometime, hopefully very soon.
Yes.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
absolutely.
I just appreciate you. I appreciate your heart to actually have people be able to heal. And you gave me some hope when I wasn't feeling my best. And, you know, that on the other side of taking that, oh, I don't know what this is, taking that step of courage and putting your trust, I put my trust in you, and you delivered and went above and beyond. So thank you for your heart and your care.
Yeah.
And let's blow up the world of peptides,
Let's
right?
do it. Let's keep educating, keep teaching, keep transforming lives. So Amanda, how can our listeners, viewers, how could they find you?
Yeah. Best way to find me on social media is on Instagram or TikTok at Amanda Soukoulis. Shoot me a message on Instagram, and happy to chat all things peptides.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you again so much. I'm Dr. Adam Boender. I am the peptide researcher. This is the Peptide Pulse, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.